That sounds like you saved your career.
Is it worth it though? I get
Wait.
to party with Snoop.
Yeah, that might have been your last party. You want to be? You might not be.
You go out
today.
epically. That's the way to do it. You go out epic. You're right.
No,
You're right.
you did the right thing. You had your moment with Snoop. Had you gone to that green room, yeah, I don't know that you would have made it out.
All right, I can't even begin to tell you the excitement. Welcome to All Ball. If you would have told me at any point over the last few years that I would be working with one of my best friends again, Lamar Hurd, I'm Mike Yam, I would have told you there's no chance. We have schemed for years, Lamar, to make this happen. I can't even begin to say how excited I am to do this show with you. Welcome, because this is our first episode. I'm through the roof. We've been texting about this for a few years.
Yeah, you are, I think, the only person who, when I had to stop working with you, I literally shed tears. I literally, do you remember the day when I took the Blazer job in 2016, which was completely unexpected, came out of nowhere. We were at a place where we had hit a good groove in Pac-12 studios. I'm thinking we're going to be doing all these shows together, all this stuff. And I had to call you and tell you, Yam, the dream is over. Fortunately, though, I still got to stay and work with you and do some stuff at Pac-12 for the next few years. But then we ultimately went our different ways. And you now in the NFL network and doing all the things you're doing. And now me with the Blazers full time. It's a long season, as you know.
Oh, yeah.
Don't get a lot of time to connect with you in this type of way. But I feel like all we're doing is bringing our phone calls to a public platform. So we were going to talk anyway at some point. So this is just how it's got to go down.
So we would have been talking. I'm not going to lie. And this is inside baseball. There's probably a few things I'm not going to say on this show that I definitely say
you can't.
To you.
You can't, because we want you to stay employed.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. You know what? You actually made reference to that call. I was thinking about this. I know exactly where I was when you called me. I know exactly. I remember the moment. Yeah. So I knew that this was up because you told me you auditioned the whole thing. I knew about some of the people that you knew that were up for the gig, and I of course I wanted you to get it, but I was sad because you mentioned that groove, and you and I got to work together for years. I still remember the first show we did together when you come into the studio. There's so many different like those first moments, but I'll never forget this. You called me. I was in Seattle. I was at Husky Stadium on the field. This was, it must have been August because it was training camp. Like it was a training camp, part of our tour. And you told me, and you said, hey, it's not even a lock. You said, I don't even know if I'm going to do this. And I was like, Lamar, you got to take this gig. Like, these are life jobs. These are great opportunities. You're a basketball guy. You're a basketball savant, one of the smartest basketball minds that I've ever gotten to work with. You're going to be perfect for this gig. You have to take it. And I was like, we'll figure it out. We'll work together again. And we did for a little bit. And now you and I get to do the All Ball show, and we're going to work together again. But I remember sitting there. Chris Peterson was probably on the other side of the field doing the whole thing. Or maybe it was Sark at the time. The days and the years all meshed together. But I remember that conversation.
I'm going to share something. I don't think I've ever told anybody this outside of a few immediate family members. And you know this, but I don't know if you remember because I told you when it happened back then. I remember where I was too. You're exactly right. So fall of 2016, the Blazers had extended an offer, which I was super grateful for. But initially, I just did not want to go work anywhere other than with you guys at the Pac-12. And a lot of people thought I was crazy for it. Like when the Blazers stuff first came about, everybody thought like, dude, you got to take that job. You got to, and my whole thing, and you know this about me, like I rock with purposeful people. And in the time I got to know you, I got to know Ashley Adamson, JB, Matt Muehlbach, all of the Pac-12 people who became like true family members who were invested not only in me as a talent on the professional side, but you guys knew about my youth organizations. You guys helped with that stuff. That was everything to me because that for me is what it was about. Like I have to remind people, I didn't start broadcasting first. I was coaching kids in basketball first. And because I happened to be in town after I got back from Germany playing a season over there, I got a call and got an interview to be on TV. So that's the order it came in. And my life was leading that direction. And so when the Blazers came calling, which was totally out the blue, I did not expect it. It wasn't a job I was pursuing. But as I got to meet them and know them and meet their leadership and see what they were about, it gave the same vibes of like, no, this could be something meaningful beyond just a job of doing basketball, because we could broadcast anywhere. I want to do it where it's going to mean something and where we're going to use whatever that platform is to do stuff to impact other people, which is what we were doing there. And here's the thing that a lot of people don't know. I was in a gym working out, and my agent called me and he said, all right, the Blazers, they need an answer, because we had, like, I dragged it out. It was so hard for me to give them an answer.
This. Yeah.
Yeah. And my agent said, we got to give them an answer. And I said, all right, hold up. I got to call Bethany, who you know as my wife now, who at the time we were dating, but she didn't know we were about to go get engaged soon too. So it's like, there's no way I'm making this decision without her signing off on it. And I called her. She was at work, and I told her, like, hey, we can't go past the rest of this day without giving an answer.
Sure.
Like, do we want to do this? And she and I, we had talked about, like, she didn't know we were going to get engaged in a few weeks after that, but she knew we were going to be together for some time, and eventually it was going to happen. And we had talked about in NBA, 82-game schedule is a lot different than the Pac-12 schedule. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's, so what does that look like for us? Because we're best friends. We like being with each other every day we can. And she thought about it, and she said, you know, this is something, you know, your whole life from the time you moved to Portland to now, you've been working with kids. It's been in basketball. What greater platform to do that with than the Blazers, which is something that I felt as well. And she said, I think we should do it. And I said, are you sure? And had she said no, I would have never been a Blazer employee. Yeah. And she said yes. She said, I think we should do it. I called my agent back. I said, all right, you can tell them we're in. And then I walked out the gym. I didn't even finish my workout. I left the gym, sat in my car, and started crying, because I knew I was going to have to call you and tell you, like, dude, everything that we thought was going to happen is not going to happen. And I did not see it coming, and it was so tough. And so I'm just grateful, man, that we went from that moment to thinking, like, we might not even be able to work together again to here we go, all ball.
I can actually feel it a little bit as you're telling that story.
Dude, it was tough. I remember it.
Yeah, I like I said, I was on the field. I could still hear your voice, and I, you know, legitimately excited for you, thrilled that you were going to get this opportunity. And people don't understand this. Like, when you do shows, right, and you're at a network, and we were fortunate to be there for, you know, basically the entire time, or a good stretch of it, especially early on. That was, you know, Pac-12 Network, when it launched, it was unlike any other experience that I've ever had professionally, and unlike any experience that I will ever have ever again. We had so much autonomy. Our basketball shows, and people don't know this. So Kevin O'Neill, I'm using an old computer right now for this show. I don't have my new one because my mic doesn't work on the other one. So I'm using my old computer. On my desktop, I have a clip. I mean, times of you, and you know the clip, right? Like, we would cry. We would be in our green room watching, laughing, crying.
Yes.
And I'll never forget. And this is where, you know, this doesn't exist. You'd finish a show, and you know those days are long, right? Like, it's all day college basketball, and it'd be like 10:30 at night. Mm-hmm. We'd be there at whatever, 8 a.m., 9 a.m. So you're there for however many hours.
All day.
We would be laughing the entire day. And it was so much fun. And then this is how you know you actually like the people that you work with. We'd finish up the show. Do you remember this? Me, you, and KO would sit in our green room sometimes for an extra 30 minutes and just tell stories and laugh. Yes. I mean, it was unbelievable. Now, I will tell you this. Don McClain, and you can catch Don and Ted, and they're doing their show on Pac-12 Insider, and they're going to crush it.
Oh, yeah. They're going in depth in the conference, yes.
No, I mean, in the weed, like, those guys are going to be absolutely phenomenal. The one thing that I will say is, we would have the same exact experience. It'd be me, Don, and KO on the weeks that you weren't there. We wouldn't stay in the green room. Like, Don would make sure we go back to the hotel, and, you know, there'd be, you know, the wines and the drink, you know, the tequila, the whole thing. So it'd be a different vibe. Remember KO used to say you get your Shirley Temple?
Yes. But I remember all the KO stuff.
Yeah.
Which most of it we can't share on this platform.
No. Can we get KO on at some point? You got to, like, we're cool with
this. Do we have a censor button?
It's a really good question. I don't know how it works. If you're watching this on YouTube or listening to the podcast or watching on Pac-12 Insider, I don't know how it's going to work. But we will get KL on. We'll go down story time path. I just want people to know this. Legitimately, I don't know if I've been more excited to work on a project with someone like I am this show. I mean, and I've been so blessed with so many crazy opportunities. You and I are really excited about this. Not only during the course of this season will we do a little college basketball stuff, right? Like that's going to be sprinkled into the show. There's no question. Sure. You're calling NBA games. You're all around the country with the Portland Trailblazers. You're locked in on the NBA. There's going to be some NBA conversation. We're going to get some guys that played not only in the Pac-12 conference, but are playing in the league, have some experiences there. They're going to be on this show. I've been working on NFL Network now for a couple seasons. You know we're going to be talking some NFL football. And then this year, NFL. I had an opportunity to work for the CW to do some college football. I got called back into the mix. They wrote me back in. And Lamar, trust me, we're going to hit a little college football. We got bowl season around the corner, college football playoff. If there's a big story in sports, of course, we will have it covered. Okay.
Yes, indeed.
There's some changes, obviously, that have been happening in the Pac-12 conference, at least on the basketball side. You used to rock that Oregon State uniform. I want to get your take on that and talk about some of the additions. So we will do that. It's coming up next on All Ball. All right, welcome back to All Ball. We got a little college basketball talk, not to mention we'll sprinkle in some NBA and some NFL coming up in just a minute. But Lamar, I made reference to it before we got to the break. You used to rock that Oregon State uniform. I know you're still close to that university. I know you still keep tabs on what's happening in the college basketball world because you're a hoops junkie. When you played, it was the Pac-12. Now, granted, the league
Pac-10.
is rebuilt. Pac-10, excuse me.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
We don't need to date yourself, but all right.
Well, we got to be honest.
Truth tellers.
I don't mind it. I don't mind the age, yeah.
Yeah, I do. Because I've always here's why you don't mind. You see all this? When you first met me, there was no salt.
There was no Greg, but it looks good on you. It looks really good on you.
So David Carr uses this phrase, speaking of now new to the Pac-12, Fresno. It's where, David, former number one overall pick. I promise we'll get David on here, but he calls it a wisdom crown. And I said I would use that phrase. I like that. Unfortunately, I have no wisdom. That's where you come into play.
Stop beating yourself up.
No. This is where you come into play. This is where I might have some life experience. You got the basketball wisdom.
Okay. All right.
So you go Pac-10. You're used to that. Yeah. All these guys that are playing currently. Mm-hmm. They know the opponents. We used to say, once you get to league play, man, like grind it out. Like everyone kind of knows each other, play each other multiple times, the whole thing. What's it like when you're an Oregon State squad, when you're a Washington State squad, and all of a sudden you're playing in a new league once January rolls around?
Well, first of all, Yam, hopefully I'm looking at you better now because I'm getting accustomed to our new setup here. So I'm trying to focus right on the camera. So please excuse me if in that first second you didn't feel the connection. It was there. But in terms of what it's like, it's just such a different landscape. The closest thing that I could compare to for somebody who played during my time, trying to make sense of what's going on now, is we used to see guys transfer, not nearly at the rate we see now, but when you would transfer, a lot of times it would be transferring to a different conference because, like, if you played in the Pac-10, when I played, and you transferred within the conference, you had to sit out 2 years. Whereas if you transferred to a different conference, you just sat out your 1 year and then you played. So I think the concept of transferring conferences is normal for an individual, just not for a school. But I think because it's been around, players can kind of get used to it. Now, the thing is, they might not like the fact that you went from one of the big power conferences to now you're in what's considered a lower level conference, although the basketball is really good. So like it's one of those things where for kids, kids aren't growing up playing in their gyms, training, saying, oh, I can't wait till one day I want to play in a WCC. Not in a disrespectful way. It's just that kids typically shoot for what they consider as the stars. I want to play in what was the Pac-12. I want to play in the Big Ten. I want to play in the ACC. Those are the games that have the most national TV games. Those are the games that are talked about the most. But what happens, though, Yam, is like now for those Wazoo kids, the Oregon State kids, they're at an age where they realize Yeah, we would have loved to have stayed in the what was the Pac-12, and we would have loved for that to have kept the same formation. But this is some real good basketball. Nobody is looking at Gonzaga like they're not a power team. There's other teams within that conference that they respect. So I'm really looking forward to see how do Washington State and Oregon State fare in this new landscape, because it's not like a walk in the park. Like it used to be a thing where if you were technically the big dog school, you were expected to win. You were expected to blow out the other team. And from the time you and I were working together at Pac-12 Network, we started to see that shift a lot, where a non-conference team would go into Corvallis or Eugene in December, or they'll go into Pullman. They'll go somewhere and steal a win. That's the way it seemed to be. But people have come around now where it's like, no, there's just a lot of good basketball all over the place. So I think it's going to be competitive. I don't think there's any clear-cut winner. I would expect the Zags to be the favorite just because they are that national powerhouse. But I'm anticipating some good games. Like I don't think it's going to be like a lopsided thing. I think all these teams fit with one another, and it should be some good basketball.
Yeah, I'm glad you're bringing up Gonzaga, because I think record-wise it will tell one story. And you know this, man. Non-conference play comes around. You just don't know how it's going to shake out. And I will give Mark Few a ton of credit, right? Like he's challenged his program in such a meaningful way. They've suffered some losses, but I mean, you talk about all these quad one games that they're playing, like they've racked those up. Now you get to league play. I don't think anyone's really concerned about where they fit nationally in the landscape. Of course, a top 25 team, a top 20 team, a team that we wouldn't be surprised if they make a run. The one thing that's really significant, I want to talk about big picture here from a Zags perspective. I was working, actually went for the CW during the season when the news was announced that Gonzaga was going to be going to the Pac-12 conference, part of this rebuild here, obviously basketball only. There's so much emphasis on football and being the biggest driver of revenue, these TV dollars. And that's accurate. There's very few programs on the West Coast that can move the needle basketball-wise like Gonzaga. I'll throw UCLA into the mix because of what that brand is. I'll throw Arizona into the mix because the Wildcats and what they are. But Lamar, when you lose those programs and you replace them with Gonzaga, I think there's going to be a lot of interest media rights-wise because of Mark Few's squad.
Totally agree. That's why it was such a massive move. That's why you saw the Pac-12 celebrate it the way they did. Washington State and Oregon State jumped on that and made sure everybody knew what was going on, because that is the kind of thing where, like you're saying, people will follow the Zags. They are a national brand. They've done everything to build themselves up to this point. So I feel like the Zags are looking at it like this is our conference. We're welcoming you guys into this thing competitively, but we still expect to be the big dogs. So that's why I can't wait to see the games, because so far, Wazoo and Oregon State, they have shown to be pretty good. Wayne Tinkle, in particular, lost several key players last year. And these guys, they were just in a championship game at the Diamond Head Classic in Hawaii. They competed really hard in the game down to the wire with Oregon at home. And the Ducks have shown to be better than I think some people thought that they would be once the season first started. So I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, and Dana Altman, I trust. I always throw that phrase out there. And once again, I mean, non-conference play was basically flawless for that Ducks program in Eugene. I'm glad you bring up Oregon State and what they've been able to accomplish, because you're right. Like, you used to rock that uniform, so I know you're kind of keeping closer tabs on that program than others that are out there. But once again, we will continue this conversation, this dialogue about both of these teams, all three of these teams, and really that entire conference in its entirety as the season unfolds. But Lamar, I think we highlighted this at the top of the show. You and I are tight. You always keep it real with me. You always tell me, like, hey, if you're right, you're right. If you're wrong, you're wrong. I think I might have made the biggest mistake I've ever made in my entire life. I need your take on that. It's coming up next. All right, welcome back to All Ball. Mike Yam and Lamar Hurd with you. Lamar, look, you're doing all the NBA travel, right? I got NFL Network, and I was traveling for most of the college football season back and forth for the CW. Okay. And college season now done on the CW. Got to do the Arizona Bowl. Got to do the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl, and got to meet Snoop. When I tell you, bro. It was awesome.
Wait,
Yeah.
is this taking us to your biggest mistake that you made?
Yeah, actually, let's just get to it.
An amazing experience. Awesome to have Snoopy, such a great ambassador for our sport.
Channel 5, baby, back home in LA. CW.
Snoop not messing around. Little KTLA love. There is no question about that. Tom, Max, you guys have been killing it in this entire broadcast. I was jealous you got to hang with Snoop, and I got my moment.
Close the night with me. We going to my green room. Get out of here. Bye, y'all.
I'm off to the green room. I was waiting for that invite.
All right, so Lamar, when I tell you one of the coolest things that I've done professionally, you're on a stage with Snoop. Not many people can say that they've been able to do that. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, someone will say, hey, what are some of those memorable moments in your career? I'm going to go, bro, I was on stage with Snoop. I mean, it is what it is. Here's
Are you going to
issue.
clarify, like you weren't rapping, or you just going to leave that open-ended?
No.
Okay.
Are you kidding me?
No need. All right.
Well, I'm gonna take as much street cred as I possibly can. I don't need to tell people the truth. But here's the odds to God. Here's God's honest truth here. I legitimately think I made a huge mistake, like epic mistake that I will regret probably for 10, 20, 30 years.
Okay.
At the end there, I don't know if you caught this, but Snoop had been alluded to it the entire broadcast. He was in the booth. He's like, hey, pregame, I got something special for the winners. We got the green room, the whole thing. And if you caught him at the end, he's like, yo, time to go to the green room. I was pretty fired up about it. Here's the issue, though. That game is a Saturday night. I'm down in Tucson. I got to catch a 7:40 flight to get to L.A. People are like, well, why are you rushing to get back to L.A.? Well, I got the pregame show on the NFL channel on Sunday mornings. So I'm thinking to myself, I have to get back. I told the people at the CW, I would love to do this. The only thing is I absolutely have to be back for the Sunday morning show. I'm in the studio at 7. That's my call time. I have to be there for it. If I miss that flight, Lamar, I got to drive like $1.45 to Phoenix. Hope to catch that flight. If I miss that one, I got to drive from Phoenix to Los Angeles for the pregame show. I didn't go to the green room. I didn't go to the green room.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like you made a mistake. That sounds like you saved your career.
Is it worth it though? I get to party with Snoop.
Yeah, that might have been your last party. You want to be? You might not.
You go out epically. That's the way to do it. You go out epic. You're right.
No,
You're right.
You did the right thing. You had your moment with Snoop. Had you gone to that green room, I don't know that you would have made it out. I don't know.
Would have made it out.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on in there. Like, I don't know that you needed to be a part of it. Now maybe it would have been fine. But I just don't have a guarantee of that. And I care about you and your well-being too much for you to have gotten caught up in some stuff that maybe you just didn't need to be a part of. I think you made the right decision.
What happened to you? You would have been, back in the day, Lamar, you would have been embracing me going out, having a good time. And now all of a sudden we're adults. We can't be partying with Snoop.
Having a good time and going to Snoop's green room can be two completely different things. Now, I'm not saying Snoop is in there doing anything nefarious. I'm just saying there are some things that you, as the professional, the certified pro with the wisdom helmet that you have, there's some stuff you got to stay away from. And I think it's safer. It's a safer than sorry situation.
Okay. So the only thing I'll ask then, I'm just pretty straightforward. If it was you, would you have gone on the plane or would you have stayed at the party?
I've been on the plane. I've been on the plane.
Oh, okay. All right. If that's the case, then maybe I did make the right decision.
I think you did. You did.
Even if it is the right one, I'll tell you this, might not have been the worst decision of my life, but it's going to be one of the biggest regrets that I have is not partying with Snoop, who, by the way, has a future if he wants. I now get why everyone loves the whole Snoop Dogg situation, why things are the way that they are.
Yes. And here's the thing. Just like we were able to reunite.
Yes.
If it's right, you and Snoop will reunite.
Yes.
Under optimal conditions.
Bring it. One of our good buddies, our former colleagues, Curtis Conway, used to tell me this all the time. Snoop's the best. I remember he'd be there and just Warren G would be calling this. It's a different type of person.
That's a different,
yeah. I don't roll in those circles. Or maybe I could have been rolling in those circles.
Yeah.
And I just
that's a cool experience,
stayed at the party. It was
really
truly
cool
awesome. And you know my love for hip hop. The only thing I'll say about this, Biggie was always here. right? Or here.
Are you saying Snoop has replaced? Wow.
Yeah, Snoop is.
Are you a prisoner of the moment right now?
No, I actually thought about that when I was on the flight, thinking about the party that I just missed out. I'm like, is this just a bad job by me?
So
Prisoner of the moment?
you're just feeling the regret of missing out on the party.
No, I'm going to tell you this right now. Snoop is there for pregame, shaking hands, kissing babies, talk to everyone. You want a picture? Done. In the broadcast booth. So respectful of everyone up there. Postgame could not have been a better person to work with. Never met me, didn't know me from anything, and was phenomenal on the stage that I shared with Snoop Dogg. I'm telling you,
that's the kind of thing that could put somebody in the lead. I get it.
Yeah. He
that's a big statement, though. We gotta dig through. I don't know if we have enough time right now to kind of go through that. You've been Biggie. You would play Biggie baby sometimes before we start a studio show at Pac-12 Network.
Yeah. It's
like
still in the
lasting
playlist.
through the set.
Yeah.
So now you're playing Snoop.
Look, there's going to be a little more Snoop now moving forward. That's all I'm going to say.
All
Lamar,
right.
I can't believe that we're done at this point, which is still wild to me. Here's what I'm going to tell everyone. Make sure if you're checking out this show, you can follow us on social media, the Instagram, the Twitter, the whole situation. Lamar, you and I, we got some college hoops talk. We didn't even scratch the surface on the NBA and the NFL. I promise we got some great guests that are lined up. You and I are going to be diving deep on all of those topics. Once again, appreciate everyone watching and listening to All Ball.